All right, today we're diving into a framework that could, really change how you deal with people, both at work and at home. We're talking about turning those super frustrating moments into, well, actual genuine connection.
Okay, right off the bat, I want you to think of someone. No, seriously, picture their face. I bet you don't even have to think hard, do you? The name just popped right into your head. You know their job title, maybe even that one little thing they do that drives you nuts. Yep, we all have that person.
And here's the thing, right? You just can't escape them. They're at the office, they're in your family, they're at the grocery store. Heck, they might even be coaching your kid's soccer team. They are just a fact of life. So, what are we supposed to do about it?
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start by meeting this guy Nate. You'll see what I mean. Then we'll talk about the first complicated person you have to deal with. From there, we'll learn how to look for the backstory, how to expect complication and prepare for it with grace, and I'll share 4 simple words that can change absolutely everything. And finally, we'll get to the ultimate payoff, why this all matters so much.
All right, so who is this Nate? Well, in a national study, author Ryan Leake asked people to define the word complicated. And you know what happened? People didn't give definitions, they just gave names. One person literally just wrote, "guy named Nate." Another one put, "this lady I work with named Leslie." It's kind of funny, but it's so true. We all have a Nate or a Leslie in our lives.
And that right there, that's the big dilemma. Their problems create so much complexity for us. So what do? Do you try to fix them? Do you just ignore them? Do you, cancel them? Or is there a better way, a more effective, more human way to actually work together?
Okay, get ready for a little plot twist here. Because the very first and honestly the most important step in learning how to work with complicated people, well, it has nothing to do with them at all. It actually starts by looking in the mirror.
Check out the math on this. It's kind of wild. According to the research, a whopping 80% of people say, "Yep, I've got a complicated person in my life." But then when you ask them, "Okay, but are you the complicated one?" Suddenly only 26% say yes. Clearly the numbers don't add up. Someone's not being totally honest with themselves, right?
And this is the huge takeaway. We have to realize that we are all somebody else's complicated. You, me, every single one of us is someone else's Nate. The second we accept that we are part of the complexity in someone else's life, we can finally shift from judgment to self-awareness. And that is the real starting point.
So, once we've done that hard work of looking inward, it's time to look outward again, but with a brand new lens. And that lens is curiosity. This is our first big strategy, trying to understand the story that's going on behind the behavior we see.
This really breaks it down perfectly. We have 2 ways of seeing people. There's the problem view, where we just see them as an obstacle, right? A bug in the system that needs to be fixed. But then there's the human view. This is where we see a person with a history, with pressures we have no idea about, with a whole complicated story behind the scenes. And let me tell you, making that shift from one view to the other, well, it changes everything.
Think about the story of the woman at the well. To her entire town, she was the problem. They just defined her by her past, 5 failed marriages, but Jesus looked right past all that complicated history and saw a person with a story, a person with potential. And because he took the time to look for her backstory, she ended up transforming her whole community.
Okay, that brings us to our next big strategy. And this one is all about managing our own expectations. It's a simple idea. Instead of being constantly surprised when people are complicated, what if we just prepared for it?
Look, let's just all agree on a fundamental truth right now. Perfect colleagues don't exist. Perfect partners, perfect friends, nope, they're not real. So if you're going to work with people, flawed ones are your only option. That's it. Expecting anything else is just setting yourself up for disappointment over and over again. So how do we actually prepare? With a brilliant little concept called grace prep. I absolutely love this idea. It's just like meal prepping on a Sunday, right? But instead of packing up your lunches for the week, you're packing up your patience. You're basically deciding ahead of time that you're going to make room for other people's faults before they even happen.
And this isn't some new age management trick. It's actually ancient wisdom. Make allowance for each other's faults. That phrase, make allowance, is so powerful. It's not reactive. It's a proactive decision to give people a little extra room, to create a buffer of understanding in all of our relationships.
Okay, now I want to give you a tool. It's so simple, you might actually underestimate its power,
But I promise you, these 4 little words can completely transform the most tense, most difficult conversations you'll ever have.
So, any guesses? What do you think they are? Just take a second and think back to the last time you were in a real disagreement. What is something the other person could have said that would have just immediately changed the vibe and made you actually want to listen? Here they are. I could be wrong. That's it. Notice it's not I am wrong, it's just an admission of possibility. I could be wrong. This simple phrase signals what's called intellectual humility. It says, hey, I have my perspective, but I'm willing to make space for yours. Instantly, it turns a battle into a collaboration. It invites the other person to solve the problem with you instead of against you.
So why bother with all this, right? Why go through the trouble of self-awareness and looking for backstories and doing grace prep? Because the payoff here isn't just about having a slightly less annoying Tuesday at the office. It's way, way bigger than that. It can be genuinely life-changing.
I mean, just look at this data. This is not a small thing. Half of working Americans said they would literally take a pay cut. They would trade money just to work with less complicated people. That shows you how deeply we crave harmony and real collaboration. Mastering these skills has actual quantifiable value in our lives.
But the real payoff, the one that truly matters, is so much more personal. Ryan Leake tells this incredibly powerful story about his dad. See, after his dad had a stroke, he couldn't drive anymore, and his one and only big outing was a trip to Walmart. And we're talking a 3-hour marathon trip that drove teenage Ryan absolutely crazy. Fast forward years later, there was this one last totally chaotic trip where he lost both his parents in the store, and the rental car even got stolen. Just a mess.
And here's the heart of it all. Today, his father is gone. And that thing that felt like such a frustrating, complicated chore back then is now a memory he would give anything to have back one more time. It just goes to show you, perspective changes everything. The very things that drive us crazy today might just be the things we miss the most tomorrow.
So, I want to leave you with this question. Remember that person you pictured right at the very beginning? Your Nate or Leslie? What if, today, you chose to see their backstory instead of just their behavior? What if you decided to grace prep just a little bit for them tomorrow? Who in your life right now needs you to stop seeing them as a problem to be solved and start seeing them as a human to be understood?